welcome to our second installment of our video walkthrough of our native iOS app. Been 2 weeks, made a ton of progress. And just to give you a high-level summary of what we're going to show you today and what we've accomplished, right? So first and foremost, we've got, majority of the tabs set up that we're going to have in the final drop we're going to do. Probably very little change from what's there today, other than the profile page. We've also successfully connected activities to segments and segments back to activities, which we'll show you. We've got our peak thresholds and the associated factors on a nice page under peaks. And then we've implemented our athlete finder that lets you find people that have similar bike power thresholds as you from a watts per kilogram perspective. So let's go ahead and drill in to the first item, touching on the changes to the feed. So you can see now we instead of just a list of activities, we actually have some images, right? So we've been looking at images or capturing at least the classification of your cover photos since the beginning of Strive AI. And so we can show you, if you've attached a cover photo to an image, then we show that. And if you haven't, and there's a route, then we get from Google a quick static image of the route you took, and we're capturing those for activities and for segments. So it just gives a little pop to the user interface. And so those are very subtle changes. We still haven't done the little action down here where we'll allow you to submit yourself for sync, but we'll get that very soon before we do the drop, obviously. So let me just give you an example of drilling into one. Like I'll click on an activity that's a run. And so on an activity page, a little bit of changes here. We used to make you swipe up in the top section. You see these sections to see things like your peak thresholds. But we said, maybe we'll start to just maintain a list, right? So this one it doesn't have any segment efforts because it's a run with power. We'll be adding that very soon, so you'll be able to see how you've done on all of your segments from a watts per kilogram when you're running with power. But and I'll show you this again in a minute, right? Here I'm just showing the achievements for this activity on your threshold peaks, right? So for heart rate, we just show the value. If it's a power, either run or bike, we show it in watts per kilogram and what your little trophy was. Right now you can't drill in here, but effectively it would probably take you over to the factors for that threshold. So you could take a look at what's going on with those. If we go step back out, maybe I'll take you to one that has a little bit of both. Let's see, here's an activity that has a breakthrough. So yeah, you can see I've got peaks and I've got segment watts per kilogram achievements, right? Yeah. So there you go. That's more like it, right? That's generally, and we'll put the best efforts on here next week, a few other little things. Anything that's really like got a trophy or an award or anything, you're going to see it on the main page. Now the swiping still obviously is working, and here we've replaced, just having text versions of your peak thresholds for this activity, made it into a chart. And we always just, right now we're displaying heart rate against this axis over here as a line. So here's my 1 minute heart rate, my 5 minute, my 20 minute, my 60. And then here's my watts per kilogram. We got some formatting issues, but we'll work those out. So your power is always going to be a bar chart, and then your heart rate's always going to be a line. So you can kind of get a sense of the two. And these scales will be more mapped to your individual peaks, right? So if you're going over 10 watts per kilogram for 1 minute, you'll be a rock star. But at least we'd have room to display your stuff. And if you never go over 6, then it'll change the scale 6. Likewise on your heart rate. And so yeah, we're still doing the training peak stuff. Still have information about what predictions were made. So that that's the summary of the activity. Let me maybe go back in here just so you can get a sense of how you drill in. right? So drilling in on the activity, if I want to take a look at Wildcat Canyon, that's a segment that I just clicked on, real popular one in the East Bay. And here I see the efforts for me. So my top effort was 12 minutes with 3.69 watts per kilogram, I guess not too long ago. And then if you want to see the leaderboard, you can flip over to this and you get a sense of, the top dogs going up Wildcat Canyon in terms of, it's all stacked ranked by watts per kilogram. And we'll have a very simple leaderboard. It'll just be the top 100 athletes, I suspect, maybe even the top 25 or something for a while. But I'm not sure how many people are on the set. It's pretty decent, right? We got a fair number of users hitting it in the Bay Area, East Bay. So that gives you a sense. And then if you're on a segment, obviously you can click over to any other activity. So if I look at this segment effort, I come over to this activity. It gives you the ability to navigate between the two. So there you have it for that. Now let's go over to the peaks tab. So this is a little different. We used to just have, in the website, you just see a table of your different thresholds, right? Remember, we have heart rate, we have power, and we have run power. So that's heart rate, bike power, run power. That's what you can swipe through here. So if I swipe left, I get to power. If I swipe left again, I get to run power. And you can see it's just changing the wheel with your 1 minute, your 5 minute, your 20, and your 60. Right, so if I want to drill in on something, let's say I want to see my 5 minute power factors, just click on that, and then the top of the chart refreshes, right? So, the intent here is we've changed it around a little bit. We want to make it a bar chart. So anything that's going to the right of 0 is a positive influence on my 5 minute power. So gradient helps. Believe it or not, my weight going up helps. It seems like it's all it's doing now is going up with all the work we're doing. But, that helps. And then things like velocity, right? Obviously, my 5 minute power is not super high when I'm going like 25 miles an hour. But if I'm going slow up a hill, right, then it looks like it's pretty good. Cadence has a major impact. And obviously, heart rate, right, is kind of it makes sense, right? That's pretty common sense. So, this is the new factors display. And if you want to look at a different 1 minute, you just click on that and it changes to go with that, right? So it looks like gradient is the biggest thing in my 1 minute, whereas my 5 minute, the biggest thing is heart rate and cadence. So a couple things here. This is just the beginning of factors. We're showing you what's available right now in the system. And the intent, and we'll get to it very soon, is adding different types of factors. We already have different types of data. Now we just need to turn those factors on. So let's just give you a quick run through. When we connect to Apple Health, which is the principal reason why we're doing an iOS app first, we'll be able to have biomarkers factors, right? So looking at things like your blood oxygen, your glucose index, things like that you're capturing if you're using those types of sensors and you're integrating them with Apple Health. You'll just be able to authorize Strive AI to talk to that, and we'll tell you what role those variables have, in your ability to generate power or or run fast or whatever. Another good example is weather. We're already capturing all the weather data so we can help predict segment performance times. So we'll be adding very soon, how is the weather impacting your thresholds, right? Does temperature have an impact? Does humidity? Does barometric pressure? Things like that, right? And so that'll probably be the first one we turn on since we already have the data that we've been capturing for segment efforts. But we're thinking about a couple others. One would be your bike fit. So each of your bikes probably has a different stack reach and all that kind of stuff. So we would let you enter that data and then see if the bike fit is impacting your ability to generate power. Is it positive or negative impact? They also help you look at, are there subtle differences in your power meters between the 2 bikes or 3 bikes or whatever it is. And then the last one, most importantly, is we're planning to do running mechanics, right? We're about to turn on an interface with Garmin, where we'll get a fit file for every activity, and then we can take a much deeper look at the running mechanics like ground contact time, things like that, stride length, that we'll be able to look and see, is that playing a role on your run power or your best efforts speed. So very exciting stuff, and the idea is you'll be able to swipe left and right up here to get to those different types. The last thing to kind of comment on here is, we're going to use the force touch interface. So if you like press cadence and hold it for a second, then what it'll do is it'll pop up another quick view for you to take a look at that variable cadence against your 5-minute power, or whichever one you had selected here. And that'll show you the relationship between the variables in a graph. So you can kind of get a sense of, how's one impacting the other. So more to come on that, but that's your quick look at factors in a mobile app. So let's take you back over to the starred segments, and then we'll wrap it up. So starred segments view is kind of like feed. It's really showing you a list of all of your starred segments, and then what is the most recent achievement you've had from a watts per kilogram. The picture it's showing is that of the segment and not that of the achievement or the activity. And then you can drill in here, right? So I'm going to quickly drill in, and then we'll cover a little bit more information about this. So again, I got my efforts on this segment. We got the leaderboard on this segment, and the intent in the next couple weeks, in the next demo, is to add another tab here where you click on, which could take you to the factors for that segment. So it's like I talked about in the last demo. We're almost done with the back end, AI engine for it. But essentially, it'll look at the segment efforts against, in this case, Grizzly Peak from Centennial. It would show you which variables have the biggest impact for you as a rider or for everybody as a rider going up that in terms of getting a high placement on the leaderboard, right? Like what's the key to Eric and Rob's success on this segment? Is it high cadence? Is it, probably obviously they're just super strong guys. They get a lot of watts per kilogram. But, you'll be able to get a sense of that, and it'll include the weather data and other things that we're using to predict the performance on it. So that's going to be a pretty interesting use of factors. And you're going to start to see these factors show up in a lot of different places around the system. All right, so let me close with showing you one more thing where we're expanding the app quite a bit. Obviously a lot of iOS apps have a more screen where you just have a ton of options. The first one we put in there is the finding athletes, and that's doing our athlete cluster on your bike power, watts per kilogram. So, there's a couple changes coming to this that we're going to release with the mobile app. Essentially this will have a little command menu option down here where you'll be able to see hopefully clustering by bike power and by run power, always by watts per kilogram. So you're looking for people that have the same strength to weight ratio as you. And then the last thing we're going to add is being able to say just for your geography, because we've got enough users now. You can see, with the just over 3,000 users, for me, I've got it's a sea of people that have similar power to weight as me. So, I think it's time to get the system where you can use your geography. And, it'll just be an option. You just click on, use my geography, and that'll weed down the list. Essentially what it's doing is every activity you do, we record the major metros where it traverses through. And, these are cities like, not the scale of New York City, San Francisco, and that, but, one level down from there. I think it probably covers like Oakland, Walnut Creek, it'd be your major suburbs basically. And then it will have the ability to say, okay, everybody who's done rides in those same geographies of you, then we'll just cluster them, and then you'll get a view of those people. So it'll make it a little more user friendly. And we've got big ideas for more AI around clustering. Some stuff around helping you find segments, helping you find group rides, all these kind of things are on the pipeline, and will coming shortly. So, hey, thanks for listening. We'll give you another drop in about 2 weeks, and my hope is at the end of those 2 weeks we'll be able to ship a beta version to about 10 of you to test out. and then a couple weeks later we'll make it more widely available before we. I think our goal would be spend about 3 to 4 weeks before we actually get it in the App Store. So next week is going to be focused on filling out the rest of the experience and then getting the notifications piece done, or at least started. And there you have it. Thanks for listening.